The fight back has started, it seems. Reform absolutely routed Labour and the Conservatives in the local elections last week, gaining an extraordinary 677 council seats around the country, well and truly smashing the two-party system. A humiliated Starmer and Badenoch were left with more egg on their face than a hungry retard at a hot breakfast buffet. Farage, meanwhile, looked like a one-man walking smug emoji, with a grin bigger than a jumbo dinghy full of illegal migrants on their way to their four-star hotel. Our gibbering, witless, left-wing mainstream media establishment casually played the whole thing down as if it wasn't a massive bloodbath, unwilling to contemplate the reality that the British public had gone to the ballot box to reject the poxy globalist progressivism that the BBC, The Guardian and their many putrid imitators have been trying to shove down their necks for decades. It was the day that all the so-called gammons, the bigots, the far-right conspiracy theorists, the thugs, the racists, the uncultured and uneducated, the hurty feelings brigade turned up to vote and give the conceited establishment a giant long overdue slap around the chops. Both the Tories and Labour have spent 20 years telling us lies, treating the British public with utter contempt, talking to us like we're a bunch of sticky-fingered 5-year-olds with learning difficulties. They've lied to us about everything, but mostly they've lied to us about immigration, brazenly, consistently, and without compunction. Now, even though I am of course a massive bigot, in my view immigration is a real positive for society, albeit in reasonable controlled numbers. Immigrants can make an honest, very worthwhile contribution to a thriving nation, whilst improving their own lives. I have neighbours, friends and family members who are immigrants, and integration is very achievable through the promotion of patriotism. But this isn't what we're dealing with, is it? What's been imposed on us and on many other European countries with a Christian heritage is the organised, deliberate destruction of national identity. Enormous mass immigration from South Asia and the Middle East of people with vastly different values, morals and customs than our own, strangely significant numbers of them being criminals, sexual predators and child molesters, and even greater numbers of them being skillless and benefit dependent. And incredibly, this has created conflict, division and disorder. Who could have predicted that? And the main issue is this: we were never asked. This wasn't something we voted in favour of. No politician has ever stood in front of voters and said, listen, we're going to import huge numbers of people from halfway across the world indiscriminately over a very short space of time, to the extent that you'll start to become a minority in your own homeland. Vote for me, guys. Not only were we not asked, we were not told this was happening by our elected representatives. They made every effort to do this on the quiet. They opened the floodgates without telling us, because they knew if they told us that this was the plan, there would be riots and civil disorder on an unprecedented scale. They simply went ahead and did it with an utter contempt for the will of the people they were elected to serve. But then we started to notice. We started to notice that nothing was working anymore. We started to see public services spread too thin and then becoming all but non-existent. We started to notice that everyone was getting poorer. We started to walk around the streets of our hometowns and notice that no one was speaking English. We noticed that people seemed to have forgotten how to queue, how to drive. People seemed to have forgotten basic good manners. We noticed the streets get dirtier, people dropping their trash, people fly-tipping mattresses and old fridges. We noticed the councils did nothing about this, too busy lining their own pockets and precipitating their own bankruptcy. We started to worry about street crime and the safety of our children. We started to see our high streets boarded up, aside from chicken shops, Turkish barbers and food banks. Foreign beggars and crackheads sat outside every supermarket and beside every cash point. And then we started hearing reports of boats, lots of boats crossing the English Channel full of fighting-age men. We heard this mostly from independent journalists online, not from the state-approved mainstream media. We started hearing about vast amounts of our tax money being spent on these new arrivals. We started to hear about an army of so-called human rights lawyers making it impossible to deport these people, raking in legal aid again at taxpayers' expense, and still the mainstream media would not address it, or if they did, they said, "Not to worry, all these illegal migrants are doctors and engineers, we need them. Diversity, guys, think of all the great food from all over the world we enjoy because of multiculturalism." Celebrities and politicians started publicly virtue signalling, taking selfies, holding signs saying, "Refugees welcome," declaring that they would happily accommodate a refugee or a whole family of refugees in their own house, but just not at the moment because they're having the spare room converted into a yoga studio. Anyone who talked negatively about this rapid demographic shift in public was instantly smeared as a racist. Hordes of anonymous keyboard warriors sending them the most disgusting abuse on social media. People who spoke out against this mass indiscriminate immigration lost their jobs, they were ostracised by their communities. Other people saw this happening and were intimidated into silence. And this weird, aggressive, catastrophic destruction of national borders continued at pace. Everybody's lives got worse. No one felt they could say anything, even as they found themselves being increasingly immiserated by this huge, bizarre influx arriving daily along our coastline. We all started to see a political, media, cultural and educational establishment built on lies. And from all of that emerged reform. And even now, in the face of total humiliation in local elections, the Conservatives and Labour will not change tack. Labour are going to continue to let the boats come, more so than ever before, because they know we're already past the point of no return. They know that even if Reform win the next general election, it'll be too late to reverse what they've done. The radical globalist war on our culture, heritage and way of life has already been won. The best we can hope for from a Reform government is damage limitation. The best we can hope for is that some of the pieces of this broken country can be patched together. At the very least, as a country, we need to reject the current culture of benefits and handouts. We need to foster a culture where every adult is forced to work and contribute. We need to eradicate the culture of open hatred and contempt that so many who choose to live here seem to have for this country. We need to put a stop to all the parasites that are bleeding this nation dry and all the progressive snowflakes who facilitate and champion their abuse of the system. Even then, it would take decades of focused work to revive this nation, to reverse what it's become, which is a third world hellhole, which anyone with any job skills or money leaves at the first opportunity. Tour dates now on sale in Southampton, Stafford with Dominic FRISBY, Southend, Hastings, London, Northampton with ALISTAIR Williams and Chelmsford. Ticket links beneath this video. Please do like and subscribe and support me on Patreon if you'd like me to carry on making these videos. Thanks for watching.